Yo.
Oh, hey, how's it going? I thought that the meeting got cancelled. I was wondering why anybody didn't show up.
I don't think it officially got canceled, although I think Greg and Jason, neither of them are going to be able to show.
Okay, so half cancelled then.
Half canceled. The best kind of canceled.
Yes. How's it going? What are you up to?
Well, first I'm going to put headphones on because I can barely hear you with the air conditioning blaring here. Zoom. Come on, Zoom. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yep, I can hear you now. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Perfect. Amazing. What am I up to? I did a bunch of releases today for Summer of Code. I guess that's the most pressing thing. Summer of Code is ending, I guess, this week, so I filled out the final evaluation. I'm hoping that Agnivesh will stick around and still help out on things, but he's interviewing for jobs and things, so I'm assuming he'll be a bit slow, at least for the next couple of weeks. But that's, I guess, the most pressing current events. What else is going on? Me personally, I spent a day and a half or probably 2 days doing a change that I knew I was going to need to do, namely in the referencing library that I wrote. I knew at some point I would have to swap in a URI library because for resolving references, you have to do this silly RFC 3986 URI normalization.
Yeah.
Like if someone HTTP and capitalizes the T, that's technically equivalent to lowercase t. So if you write like ref H capital T lowercase TP, that URI is supposed to resolve to some lowercase.
Oh, hello.
HTTP
I
URI.
lost you.
So like I said, I knew I was going to need to make at some point, but that doesn't make it easier because you lost me. Oh yeah, I see. It says my internet connection is unstable. I don't know if that's going to happen again. But yeah, you can still hear me. Yeah, basically, I'm doing that nonsense.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's honestly not that bad. I added a couple of new tests to this suite, which I'll link for fun. Yeah, here. So I had those uncommitted for a couple of days while I was trying to work on implementing this, and then committed them. I guess this morning. Yeah, that was this morning.
Cool.
Because they're kind of annoying. And of course, the yak stack never stops because as part of doing this, the last example, which is to do with port normalization, which guaranteed no one has ever used in a JSON schema, but technically it is required. Happens to be broken in the URI library, or at least the best URI library that you're gonna find doesn't do it. So I had to go off and it's another
Yeah, those rabbit holes are
trying to
fun. I've been getting myself
100%.
into some too. So I mean, because of JSON bin pack, so I got connected with one member of the JSON schema community, and turns out that he was facing extremely strange issues on one specific Ubuntu box running a bleeding edge version of CLang on an LVM that pointed at rapid JSON actually being broken with undefined behavior in certain circumstances. So what I ended up doing is just to get into the rabbit hole, I fully implemented and released my own JSON parser. It's completely up and running now. I sent a link to the repo where it is about.
Oh wow.
Complete 100% passing on all these like JSON test suites. So that's done. I've been adding JSON pointer support as well to it. The thing is, I want to get to the point where I can not validate JSON schemas, but at least be able to understand them enough to be able to do bundling. So then I can actually use this on the alter schema project and go back to that and add full-blown support even from draft 3 and older, and make that 100% accurate. So yeah,
Very
it
cool.
ended up being quite fun.
I mean, but alter schema is written in JavaScript, right?
Yeah, no, so I'm actually revamping that on C++, and I've been playing around with WebAssembly as well. So I have
Cool.
some code committed into the JSON Toolkit C++ library that it's already compilable and usable on WebAssembly, and it works. It works well.
Very cool. I should
Yeah.
I should myself play a bit with WebAssembly, but there's no time.
It's way easier than it sounds. It was also my
I'm
first
sure.
time playing with it, and it's very straightforward.
Yeah, it doesn't actually, I guess, seem that hard. The thing that's probably annoying is as far as I know, there's an open issue. Basically, on the Python side is the annoying part, because on the Python side, I don't think the standard is finished yet for shipping wheels for WebAssembly, which are basically the binary artifacts for Python.
Right.
So there's this thing, which is actually a friend of mine. Of course, is always odd when well, not odd, somewhat expected. But there's this discussion that's still ongoing, I think, for people like me, let's say. So I have a Rust
Right.
library that I build binary Python packages for. But then if you want that
Yeah.
binary Rust package to run in WebAssembly, then you have to compile them for WebAssembly. But you can't upload the wheels for WebAssembly because there's no standard for what those wheels should look like yet. So I would
Interesting.
actually have to probably participate in this discussion and see if I have anything meaningful to say. But yeah, it's another set of rabbit holes, basically.
It is, yes. And now I'm realizing, when I'm doing the JSON pointer stuff, I mean, JSON pointer I have support already, but then when you want to use JSON pointers and URI references, and you suddenly get into the whole URI, aspect of things, which is also quite tricky on C++. They also don't have any standard URI manipulation library, even though there is a proposal to include on the standard library at some point. So you have to roll with something else, and they make it happen. But yeah, it's slowly building up. I'm happy. I think I have a lot of like JSON related stuff on C++ that is getting me closer and closer to JSON schema slowly.
You're climbing the mountain from the far side.
I am, yes.
That's great.
But
Great.
it's looking good though.
Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, I'll have to look at your repo, but I'm sure it will. And the book, how's the book coming along?
The book is going fine. So I'm writing the remaining 3 chapters right now, and that should be mostly it. So
Wow.
these 3 chapters are more on the area of JSON schema. So it's like, I mean, I don't know if you looked at it so far, but essentially the way that the book goes is that there is this intertwined aspect of like the technical aspect, more like JSON schema, but with lots of data management advice and methodology for how you manage your stuff correctly, and it goes back and forth between those two. So all the business aspect, it has all been written already. So I'm missing some of the more practical examples. I'm introducing, for example, JSON, basics of JSON schema, teaching people, the concepts of vocabularies and stuff like that. I explain the concept of annotations. What the chapter that I've been writing now, it allows people to, or it teaches people how to do their basic schema registries for themselves, for like their own organization, so they can like link stuff together. And then I have one chapter coming on actually creating your own vocabulary. So this giving you like the foundations with some silly keyword around the book, and then tying everything together. So yeah,
Awesome.
will be fun.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
Very cool. So the question will be, what gets finished first, the book or the C++ JSON schema library? You're gonna race yourself.
The book for
The
sure.
book.
Yes.
Oh, you have that much confidence in how hard JSON schema is. You're probably correct. Yeah.
Yes. But I'm getting there. The thing is that I have some basic, I mean, it's not like there are some basic JSON schema stuff that I have on that repo, So it's, for example, you have functions to fetch the identifier of a schema, to be able to get the vocabularies in the dialect. I have some functions to iterate over the subschemas of a schema. So even though you cannot act on it, you can get an iterator on all the subschemas, either deep or flat. So there are small utilities here and there that I already use, but not like a full-blown, implementation.
Yeah, that makes sense. Those are quite annoying to write. Just remembering
Yeah,
this file, which probably looks quite similar to yours. I mean,
let me see.
it might not look similar structurally, but probably similar in how annoying it gets. If you actually want to fully do that correctly, you have to literally write out all of the keywords explicitly. And then I even had to split. There's some reason, which I don't recall offhand, that you can't actually have the same notion of which keywords have subschemas as like how you decide whether you've entered a sub resource. For some reason, I don't remember. Basically, in my code here, there needs to be one function that tells you, given a schema, which keywords have subschemas in it, and then a separate function
I have
that
something like
tells you,
that as well.
Yeah.
It's like a walker mechanism that I have as well, that you can pass for any dialect that you're dealing with.
Yeah,
it's
quite
but
annoying.
they are the most tricky aspects, I think. Once you probably got all these out of the way. For example, referencing, I heard that is also quite hard, but it sounds like once you get a lot of these foundations working, then the rest gets a bit easier, hopefully.
Yeah, that should be true. I'm considering, I don't think I'll have time because I'm busy also working on at least 3 other things, including not one of them, but one of them being one of the roadmap things, writing some article. But why am I bringing this up? Oh yeah, because I'm considering giving a talk at PyCon Sweden that would be about how to, like a workshop for how to write a JSON schema implementation as a way of learning JSON schema. Just one
Oh,
of these,
nice.
yeah. So I have to, if I do decide to submit that, I would have to prepare it by 2 days from now, Thursday. Not the workshop, of course, but I'll have to write up committing to do that.
Yeah.
So I have to decide whether I really want to commit to doing that, especially considering I already committed to speak in October, which I need to actually record the talk for. Yeah, so I have to decide whether to bite off another conference or not.
Yeah, for sure. But that sounds good. I mean, that's the kind of content that I think it's missing. It's probably, how do you actually write implementations well and sort out a lot of these details? I think they are very non-trivial.
Yeah, I agree. I remember Jason did one at API, whatever that conference was called. He did a workshop on how to write a vocabulary, if I remember right, which I think was useful. But yeah, you're right. I think more recorded sessions like that. Like for me, it's easier probably to give a workshop than to write articles, because articles just take me way longer than just ad-libbing a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a useful workshop to do. The thing is, you have to obviously figure out how much you can really cover in two
sure.
hours or 3 hours or
I
whatever.
mean, maybe they can be translated in somehow, it's like a lot of these foundational stuff. Like, for example, how do you determine the identifier of a schema across all the different, like drafts? Or how do you walk, sub schemas in all the different drafts? They could all be independent, articles in the blog or something like that. That just like show
Also
you
true.
how you go about it for like
Yeah,
specific
very true.
problems.
Yeah, very true. Or for a workshop, you just skip over, like I would almost think I would skip over, like I would hand someone a black box function that says this is a thing that already is written that will resolve a reference for you, and let's just focus on all the other keywords.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's those black boxes that are usually the trickiest ones, right? Because also by definition, you cannot even cover them on a workshop because you get into all sorts of details and weird things. And that's actually the hard part, right? I mean, once you probably have enough of those black boxes and tying everything together, the reporting results and whatever, it's I guess
Easy.
probably the less hard part, at least.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, true.
Yeah, so maybe elaborating on the black boxes, I guess that's the
Just
sounds like
straight
a
to the hard parts, eh? Man,
yeah,
come on, Juan. I
that's
was
like a
just saying
title
I need to
for
decide
your call,
whether.
right?
Yeah.
The black
Yeah.
boxes of JSON scheme.
Good. Now all I need is the first 90 minutes of content, and we have this solved.
I mean, you can probably feel a lot more than that with just the URI reference
I
and
froze
stuff.
again, eh? Exactly. Yeah, you can definitely fill more than that. Like one of the bow tie things that Greg brought up again today has to do with being able to run error cases again. And I suspect that if I was able to run all of this referencing suite across all implementations, that there would be a nice bit of
Of course.
a nice number of errors across them. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, if even for JSON, right? JSON itself, so many implementations do whatever on parsing. I don't know if you remember that parsing JSON is a minefield thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had it
And it's
open in the
still true
background
for
for a
rapid
year.
JSON. Actually, I've seen even some cases I would fail some weeks ago before I implemented mine. They would still fail on rapid JSON to date. So it's quite interesting.
I don't remember if it's in that article, maybe you do, but someone showed up on the JSON schema Slack, I think like 3-4 months ago, asking about repeating keys in JSON objects and showing up with some JSON parser that did some weird thing with repeated keys.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there are all these areas of undefined behavior, right?
Yeah.
And it gets even more tricky, for example, if you get into the details of how you parse numbers on JSON correctly, even with exponential notation, stuff like that. How do you handle Unicode within strings and correct scaping and stuff like that? It gets very tricky very quickly. But I got very deep on it. But now right now the parsing JSON is a minefield. It is on that repo, it will run everything, and every single thing, including the optional one, actually passes. So
Look at that.
it should be quite fine. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Is there any JSON pointer test suite, by the way, similar to that? Because I've not seen any. I mean, there is like some basic test cases that they have on the RFC, but not anything a lot more elaborate than that. Even though, I mean, it's not that
I mean, the
hard, but still,
referencing
you would think that
the referencing suite, you should be able to use that, although it may not be in the right format for exactly what you need, because it's obviously coupled to JSON schema. But the referencing suite that I wrote is comprehensive for JSON pointer. So as far as
I'll
I
look into
know,
that.
yeah, as far as I know, it has test cases for everything. Although I don't think that the JSON schema test suite is that lacking there either. It probably also does. But definitely, if you look at the tests in this repo, which I'll link in a minute.
Great. But so what is the state of the referencing suite? Because I remember some conversations before that this was taken out of JSON schema, but then it was not 100% what JSON schema would do at the moment. Like, what's the story behind that?
Behind the repo itself.
Yeah, no, but I mean the current state of that. Like, for example, if I want to implement these black boxes, should I implement exactly what you have on the referencing repo or something else?
So there's the referencing suite repo. That repo is, I mean, I won't say it's completely done in the same way that I won't say the JSON schema test suite is completely done. Like, it could be like for this normalization stuff, it could be that there's some other test case that we'll think up that's not included in that suite. But as far as I know, it's way more comprehensive when it comes to references than the JSON schema test suite is. My intention was, and probably still is, to figure out ways to backport the tests. So at some point I tried writing a program that would basically take all these tests and try and automatically generate the test suite tests, but it's not so easy for reasons I don't remember at the minute. But long story short, yeah, it's definitely usable. I used it to write my referencing implementation, and I actually wrote those test cases intending others to be able to use them. So
I will then.
yeah, I think the only thing I would say is that it hasn't been reviewed by anyone else. So there's a small chance that I've either misunderstood something, or an even smaller chance, I think, that I've included something that's wrong. but I don't think so, honestly, especially because I was able to write code that passes all the tests.
So your Python JSON schema implementation also passes these tests. Is written against all these tests.
Yeah, so there's multiple layers at this point. So there's this referencing suite, which is implementation agnostic, which is just a bunch of JSON that tells you like, if
Yeah.
these are the schemas that are in your registry and you try and resolve this reference, then you should expect to get this schema. And there's one more layer of complication there, which is just that when you resolve a schema, that might change the current base URI. So the tests also cover like multiple repeated lookups. Like if you look this up, and then after that, once you're in that schema, you look this next thing up, then you get this other thing, which has to do with whether the base URI changed. So those tests cover that scenario just purely in JSON. Then there's the referencing library that uses the referencing suite to actually implement reference resolution. And that referencing library is now a dependency of my JSON schema library. So the JSON schema library uses the
That's what I
referencing
meant.
library. Yeah. So the
Cool.
JSON schema library passes all of the referencing suite tests and, of course, all of the JSON schema tests.
Yeah, this is beautiful. I'll definitely use this. Again, I think these like writing on all of these test suites for all of these different tricky aspects of JSON schema, that's also another way of doing it, and probably even better than an article, right? Because if you have something to look into and you can say, okay, this is wrong, this is right, you can very easily get the hang of it, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Me personally, I didn't understand things well until I had to write all of these.
Yeah, exactly, and that's how you do it.
I don't know.
Right?
I'm gonna look at the tests that are in, like, guaranteed there's a test in here that's like not obvious that if you pick some random person, let's see. Just gonna pull around. Okay, I mean, like tests like these. I'm just gonna paste into the chat. Like, this test doesn't exist anywhere else besides in the schema. Basically, the test is saying like, if you use the default keyword in JSON schema and the default keyword has an ID keyword in the thing that in the value.
Yeah, you should not consider that to be an actual identifier.
Look up.
Right, it's not a sub-schema.
Exactly, like that test doesn't appear anywhere in the official test suite because we have no way of representing that. So I guaranteed that some implementations do this incorrectly. How bad is that? I mean, probably not so bad because, like, in theory, like, what's going to go wrong if you do this? The schema's going to be invalid. Like, it's not the biggest deal, but I don't know. I haven't thought that hard about, like, it's possible. It's strictly incorrect. I mean,
yeah, well, except, but that's the thing, right? I mean, the one thing that you've shown with Bauta is that even for something so crucial as JSON schema, like implementations are horribly broken. And it's the same thing, with JSON. And people have proven that also JSON parsers are horribly broken. And it's probably all the way down, right? You probably JSON pointer, there are like lots of weird things. If somebody would get down right in a proper, this case, and that's the key for interoperability, right? Yeah, but this is
you
amazing.
just reminded me. you just reminded me of a good example, which actually has to do with JSON pointer. Maybe you know this. I'm gonna test you on the spot. Let's see if I can find the test. Where is this? Don't tell me I'm not gonna be able to find this now. Give me 1 second here.
Also, side question, but is this referencing suite coming to the JSON schema org at some point, or is something that you plan to maintain yourself?
I have offered it. No, have I offered it? Yeah, I believe I have offered it. There's an issue, I think, open in the JSON schema repo, and I think I discussed it somewhere. So I'm not pushing for it, only in the sense that the offer is open and
yeah, well, it doesn't really
others
change
don't.
anything, I guess. But yeah, just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I definitely considered and planned on doing so, but I guess haven't kicked off like, hey, let's move this over. Does everyone agree? Just because I think it's possible to do that at any point, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm not finding the test that I'm looking for, which has to do with, maybe I'm misremembering. 1 second. Maybe I'm misremembering where this test lives. Okay, without actually finding the test. Maybe it's because, sorry, 1 more second here. Why is it not here? If it's not here, it definitely should be in this referencing suite. Anyways, it has to do with asking you whether this JSON pointer is valid or not. And if so, what does it do?
I mean, it's a URI reference to the pointer, which is it will get the key with the empty string, right?
Yeah, I don't think any user on the planet actually understands that. They think it works the same. They think it works the same as this.
Right. Yeah, well, that would actually get you the root of the
Right.
thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. There's so many caveats, so many like interesting quirkiness of all of these, right? And the amount of divergence out there is just nuts.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane. But yeah, we'll get there. I mean, one of the
Oh,
cool
yeah.
things I'm experimenting with the C++ thing is because lots of people are actually using more than you would think, are using JSON to do a lot of AI stuff, right? Both for training and like model refinement and like AI related data sets. So there's a huge demand for like JSON tooling on the AI space. But the thing is that they want lots of tooling that is meant to be hyper fast, right?
Right. Sure.
The thing is that now there is a lot more movement and lots of like research articles have came out recently, if you happen to saw them, doing lots more and more JSON manipulation on GPUs, right?
Okay. Yeah, I've seen one, I think.
With some crazy things. I mean, do you remember SIMD JSON, the one that is using these like parallel instructions, and it was already like multi-gigabytes per second, right? There are now GPU implementations on NVIDIA stuff or like JSON stuff. It's like way faster than SIMD JSON already, right? So there is this interesting movement, going to GPU. So the one thing that I want to do with my C++ library is that there are ways in which you can run standard C++ directly on GPUs. And the Kronos working group has even re-implemented the C++ 17 standard library on GPUs, which is kind of
Very
cool.
cool.
Let me see if I can show you that. It's
Yeah.
madness. But they have some really cool stuff. Yeah, take a look at this.
Yeah, send it over.
This is a standard library implementation for GPUs. It's using this SYCL that is supposedly the next evolution of something like OpenCL,
Okay.
targeted at C++ specifically, and people are using this a lot for like AI stuff, generative AI on GPUs. So we'll be very curious about at least tuning JSON toolkit to run well on something like this.
Very interesting. I see. This belongs to the same group, the sickle thing.
Exactly. Yeah, so lots of very exciting stuff. So we'll see.
Oh man, too much to learn.
Too much, yes. But that's the thing, a lot of these like lower level
learn.
tooling, they're mostly available for like C++, that kind of stuff. But then you have to actually do an implementation on that, and it's trickier definitely than in others.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, not to spoil the fun, but if we weren't actually going to do the, well, let me look at least and see if there were any agenda items. Not that I suspect
There were none actually.
Well, maybe
yeah.
There were none, right?
No, so we can continue with the lives. I have to go to an appointment as well in a bit, so it's actually convenient.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go to sleep because it's almost 1 o'clock.
Oh no. Cool. Well, great to catch up with you. Then I'm definitely
Yeah,
be
man.
looking into the referencing suite. It's definitely on my list then to implement that on JSON Toolkit, and I'll probably have questions. So we'll see.
Cool. Yeah,
But
complain
yeah,
if it doesn't make sense.
at least I proved my JSON pointer knowledge today. So, and it's on record, so I
You did.
can claim
It's
to be
on
a
record.
JSON pointer expert.
That's right. Yeah. Let the recording show that before I
Exactly.
clicked start recording, I gave him the answer. No. It's not true.
It was all pre-planned.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Well, have fun, mate. See
All right,
you.
man.
See you
See
later.
you soon.
Bye.